Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the How to Build a Team podcast with Pam and David. Today, we have another very special guest on our show, Susan Mcvea, who we first met, 2 or 3 years ago, I'm thinking, at various events around Vancouver, when I was busy doing all of those events around Vancouver. When I first met you, I wasn't even thinking about Great Work Online and that connection there. I was just really fascinated with your story and your methods. And now over the last couple of years, with getting very involved with our business, Great Work Online, and still seeing your stuff on social media, I've been consuming a lot of your content. And it just really, really struck me how we have so much similarities in the people that we try to serve and the message that we have. So I'm really excited that we were able to have you on today. Welcome, Susan. How are things in Vancouver?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. It is a beautiful, sunny, almost feels like summer, which is fabulous. Yeah, so it's awesome here. Yeah.
Good. No, I've been hearing. I've got friends and family in Vancouver, so I get all of the weather news and how one day it's excruciatingly hot, and the next day everybody's wearing hoodies and jeans again. So it's we're feeling a little bit sorry for you here in the Philippines. It's warm every day. We have varying degrees of warm. Some days it's just a little bit hot, and some days it's super hot, but it's never cold here. But we're in the rainy season, so we're getting lots and lots of rain every day. So that's some days is a mixed blessing. It can cool things off a little bit, but it just makes it more humid. So let's get started. I'm just going to read through your bio here really quickly, and then Susan, I will turn it back to you to kind of fill in the blanks and tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you got to be where you are today. So with over 20 years of experience selling more than 40 million and leading high-performance sales teams to over 600 million in revenue, Susan Mcvea is an award-winning sales strategist, consultant, and speaker who now helps ambitious entrepreneurs as the founder of Sales Mastery Society and host of Master the Sales Game podcast. Featured in numerous media such as Entrepreneur, Forbes, Business Insider, and others, she's on a mission to help create more millionaire entrepreneurs and establish a mentality of wealth and abundance in the world. What a great, great target to have. Welcome, Susan.
Welcome. Thank you so much.
So tell us a little bit, who is Susan? How did Susan get from who she used to be to where she is today, and what led to all of that?
I know this is how much time do you have, Pam and David? No, I'm just kidding. It's like asking somebody to explain their whole life story almost, I sometimes feel like, right? And so I'll keep this short and to the highlights reel. I never imagined in my wildest dreams that I would be here talking to you about having a largely online-based business. My parents were entrepreneurs. They were traditional brick and mortar store owners. They're immigrants to Canada. And that's the life that I grew up with. It's not the life that I wanted. For me, being a business owner represented long hours, a lot of hard work, no paid vacations, no paid medical, even though, I'm grateful to be in Canada. There were certain things that being self-employed left me desiring. And so as a small child, I decided early on that that's not what I want. I wanted the structure. I wanted the corporate life. And so right after university, it was this back in 1998, it was a recession. I couldn't find a job in the field that I wanted. And so I literally just had to take any job. And a friend of mine said, hey, why don't you come over here? It's paying more than minimum wage. It's super easy. And I thought, what the heck? Why not? And landed in a corporate finance role that I thought was customer service. I thought it was mainly dealing with clients and handling cash, which at my parents' store, I'd done since the time I was 7. Lo and behold, I realized a little too late in the game because I had to pay rent in like literally 2 weeks. I'd given myself such a tight window of, am I going to get a job? Am I going to get a job? And when I finally got one, I had 2 weeks to pay between payroll and paying my rent. And I realized, oh no, it's sales. Like I have to sell. And I thought, well, this is no good. But at the same time, I really had no other option. There was no plan B. There was nothing else that I could do. I was already working another retail job at the same time in order to make sure that I could make ends meet and pay back my student loan. So fast forward almost 20 years, I was still with the same corporate company, had ended up just loving what I was doing, and flipped the switch early on that sales was serving, that this was something that I could do because I had served customers and I had served clients my entire life. I loved helping people. I loved figuring out solutions for them. I was a huge problem solver and still am. And as soon as that clicked, everything fell into place and I just kept getting promoted until I had a major car accident, a major health catastrophe happened. And it wasn't until several years later, dealing with chronic pain and kind of the aftermath of that, that as a high performing person who really is very driven and ambitious, I was almost driving myself into an early grave. And I didn't realize it. And at the time, I had 2 kids who were very young, and I wasn't really present. I wasn't remembering anything about their lives. I couldn't take care of them. And by the grace of God, I had a major breakdown back in 2015. And that was the turning point. That was what made me think, what the heck am I doing here? And how do I want to live the rest of my life? I had that kind of flash, the flash of like, I'm going to die. Is this how I want to die? And I realized that for me, the answer was a resounding no. And through that reflection, through that journey to get better, to become whole, to really take care of myself, I stumbled into this whole online world and accidentally became an entrepreneur, almost the same way as I accidentally fell into sales way back when. And through it, I have just loved being able to help other people and taking the same skills that I've had through my entire life, but mostly through my corporate career, and now being able to apply that in the online space to help other entrepreneurs just like you and me, who are struggling to sell themselves and not feel sleazy while they do that.
I love it. I love it. I resonate with your story, Susan. I finished university as well in 1998. And the struggle, I can feel you. I mean, the story that you have, it's kind of like the same thing that I've went through. I had this corporate life in 2015, but after university, there were several jobs that I had, but it's like, because we were trained since in the beginning that, all right, after school you need to get a job. It's not like after school, start your own business. It's not like that. It's very traditional. And after university, few jobs. And then after that, I got married. I've got 2 young kids, and then worked from home as a freelancer. And then eventually got hired as the head of project management. And I've been commuting back and forth and losing 4 hours of my day. And like what you said you're not present there. You kind of like feel that you're missing out a lot on your kids' lives. And I remember one time when we used to have this Friday night, movie night, every week before when they were younger. But I would fall asleep. I mean, I don't even remember what we watched. And I would remember my kids waking me up and telling me that the movie was done. The movie was finished. I'm like, so what's the use of having that quality time supposed to be movie night with them when I was so tired and just falling asleep? So that is when I started whining at David, and I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't see my kids. I don't have a life. I've been stuck at the office, leaving the house from 7 a.m., 8 a.m. and coming back home at around 11 p.m. So that was a disaster. But I never regret being in that stage of my life, working at a corporate office, because that is how it led us to having great work online and helping entrepreneurs scale up their business. So I want to dive deep into that. How do you help your clients? I've been reading a lot about you. We've seen some of your interviews. We've heard some of your podcast guests, and just basically kind of like stalking you to really know about you and be ready in this conversation. And it's really interesting how you helped people, entrepreneurs, scale their business from scratch, from zero, 7 figures. How is that? I mean, how were you able to do that?
Yeah, so it's everybody's journey is different. And what I would say is that the main thing here that is common to every single person is they are relentless in their pursuit of the vision. And most of my folks, they're servant leaders, meaning that they have a heart to serve. And above all else, yes, the money is great. And you heard, my mission is to see more millionaires, but the power behind that is really because having been in corporate finance, I know that money means choices, money means control, and especially for women in particular, which is a large part of who I serve, is women pay it forward in a much bigger way than our male counterparts. No offense, guys, but I mean, women want to change the world with our families, our communities. It's more than just ourselves. And so for me, all the people that I help have that eye on that prize, and it's not about the money. The money is a byproduct of how many people they serve. And so knowing that there's ups and downs, knowing that especially when it relates to sales, it's hard. It's hard to not doubt yourself. It's hard to stop getting in your own way. It's hard to think that you're good enough and that it's okay to charge and okay to ask for the amount of money that you want to have people to pay you, and to keep going when sometimes there's not evidence that it's actually working, right? Because just like with anything else in life worth having, oftentimes the amount of work that we put in at the beginning, we don't see the fruits of that labor. So it's very much like planting or farming, right? Like when you plant seeds, you have to have patience because you might not see anything happening for a very long time, especially for those itty bitty seeds, right? You plant the seeds and you just have to have trust and faith that you're going to water it. You've put it in good soil. You're going to fertilize it. You're going to make sure that it's sheltered from natural disasters, and you give it the sun and the light and all of the stuff that it needs to have in order for the seed to take root and to then start growing. But it doesn't happen right away. Like you can't eat whatever it is that you've planted right away. There is a time period where it takes to grow, to flourish, and then for that plant to bear the fruit that you have to be able to take. And so when we think about our businesses in the same way, I mean, especially as it relates to sales, there is a natural sales cycle. And what people don't usually realize, and the ones that make it do understand, is that the things that you do right now, like these next 90 days, may not show up in the current 90-day cycle. It might not show up until the next 90-day cycle. So it really depends on your ability to be resilient, to have that fortitude and the faith that you're doing the right activities and that you don't get swayed by doing other things. The ones that have gotten the best success are the ones that follow through on their commitments and take personal responsibility, but they also don't start muddying in the mix with all of the things that they could be doing. So here's what I mean. You're being told to do something one way, and there's a bunch of steps. Let's say there's 5 different steps, right? Like here's how you're going to conduct a sales conversation. There's 5 different components that I'm going to outline for the client. And then they hear somewhere, oh, but if they do this, it should increase their conversion rate. They haven't asked me this. They just have gone ahead and integrated it. And then, 2 months or 2 weeks later, they realize, what the heck is that? Why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? It's not working, Susan. Like there's a problem with your strategy. And when I go back and we dissect, wait, what did you do? Did you do the 5 things that I asked you to do? Well,
They skip.
Mostly, yeah, right? It's like mostly. And then, but here's the thing, that one or two things could be the difference. And it's not because the one or two in isolation, it's because the combination of the components that have been put together, it's like putting together a giant puzzle.
Yeah.
And it's really hard when pieces are missing to actually see the whole picture, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's the same thing. And so the ones that have gotten the best success are the ones that stop getting in their own way. They say, I trust that I've hired you or I've asked you for the guidance, and my only job is to follow through.
Right.
Yeah. They need to trust the process. Yeah. Sorry to cut you, babe. I know you're going to say something, but with here at Great Work Online, we built a process and we call this online masters workflow. And we take our clients through that journey from phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. And we understand the clients that they get impatient because they want to see the result right away. But like what you said, it doesn't happen like that. If you want to have great results, then you need to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no matter how long the steps will be. But you have to go through the process, trust the process, and most importantly, if they hire you, that means they trust you, they believe in you, so they need to take your lead and get out of their way and be the bottleneck of their business. Most of the time, in our experience, most of the time, entrepreneurs get their own way. From that's the reason why they can't scale, because they want to skip the process.
Yep.
And then they'll be like, something is wrong. There is nothing wrong. You just have to follow the process and be patient.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's I know my own self. I've been flip-flopping between corporate work and entrepreneurship for the last 35 years. And I would start a business or get involved in a business, and with varying degrees of success, some have worked better than others have worked. But I see a common path in what you said earlier, Susan, in that people start to put in the work, but they don't see the results right away, and they get frustrated. They go, well, this isn't working. So they try something different, and they do that for a little bit and don't give it enough time to for that seed to germinate and grow and bear fruit. And they're moving on and planting the next seed, trying to get something that's going to grow quicker, grow faster. And Pam, what I was going to say earlier is exactly what you just said, is that we have this very specific process that we go through with new clients when they start working with us. And it's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And so many times the clients are all excited to do step 1. They've just signed on the dotted line, literally, and they're all excited. So step 1 is they're all in, and step 2 is pretty much all there. And by the time we get to step 3, they're ready for step 4. They don't want to do any more of this stepping stuff. They just want to see the results. And if we skip step 3, the results are never going to happen. And so it's good for me to hear this from a sales professional and a professional sales coach, that lots of people suffer from that same thing. It's not just our process that's causing people to suffer. It's very encouraging to hear.
I think it's the curse of the entrepreneur, right? There's no shortage of ideas, and the visionary in particular. And so I do work with a lot of people who are the CEO of their business. And as the CEO, there is no shortage of ideas. You're forever coming up with all of these newfangled things that can take you off the path. And the hardest thing to do that will create the biggest momentum and success is focus, is one thing. So, I mean, the clients that I know want to create that huge amount of wealth, you don't need to have a dozen different offers. You need to have one specific offer that provides the best solution and the outcome to your clients. You don't have to, price gouge people. You can charge actually whatever you want, but you need to match up what it is that you deliver, the outcome and the transformation, and have an idea of what those conversion numbers are going to look like. So if I can give you 2 examples, like I have a client who, has now shifted into the service space a little bit more, but he has primarily built his business based on products. Now, I'm not generally a product expert, but because he has the service arm, we work together more in that capacity. But he started off selling wreaths and ribbons. And so for him, that requires volume in order to get to $1 million or $3 million or $5 million. And that's a lot of individual sales. And so when you're thinking about it from like an e-commerce perspective, or even if you're selling like ebooks or something because too often experts come to me thinking, well, if I just charge less, it'll be easier for me to sell. If I only charge, a few $100s or a few $1,000s instead of what I really want to charge, then it'll be easier for me to get the yes. It'll be easier for me and I can help more people. And that is not true at all. A sale is a sale is a sale. And so it takes just as much time and effort to make one sale of $37 as it does $370 or $37,000. It's a different person potentially and a different message of how you position that purchase and how you're making sure that person is comfortable to buy than the actual dollar amount itself. And so when we're thinking about this, so for this particular client, the reason why he was able to get to 7 figures primarily on his product-based business and now is starting to do that on his service-based business as well is because product-wise, he had a massive audience. He grew a huge audience of people so that he had the volume involved in order to be able to put that through. And so if you have a smaller number of people in your audience, on your list, following you on social media, then the numbers just won't jive to do that. You will struggle. It will feel exhausting. And so if you're an expert, chances are you may be undercharging. And that might be why you're struggling to sell, because it's just not worthwhile for you to have the conversations or to service the clients. And you're kind of beating your head against both sides of the table. Right? It's like, I'm damned if I do. I'm damned if I don't. I need the client, but it's not really worth the work and the effort because the amount that I'm charging is too low. And so I would really encourage folks listening right now that you have to kind of do an audit. If your goal is to get to 7 figures and you're being told that you need to have a full ascension model or the customer journey map lined out with 5 different tiers and like upsells and downsells and do this and bundle that and package that, you don't. You need 1, maybe 2 offers at the very most, up to 3 if you really need it. But really and truly, 1 offer can get you to $1 million. 1 offer. It's really about who's your target, how are you selling that, how are you positioning it, and what is the end result that you are providing, and how do you match that up with the price that you want to charge, with the people you want to serve, and with your unique gift. And the hardest thing as you keep going is going to be putting the blinders on and staying focused.
Awesome. Yeah. You know what? We're helping a client in the past, and she's got tons of products that she wants to sell. And I'm like, okay, what is our focus here? It's like she's got 10 products or courses, and she's like, she wants to promote everything. I'm like, no, we can't do that. You have to figure out which one is the best to help your client. What is their pain point? I think that is that is the first step, I guess. When you want to promote your product or service, you need to have that clarity of what is the solution that I have to solve my clients' pain points? What are they struggling with? What are their challenges with? And then through that, knowing that, then you will also know, regardless of how many products you have, just pick one and solve that specific problem and then focus on that. Because if you're gonna focus on your 10 products, promote it, it's not gonna work. The end result will be you're not gonna get sales because your messaging is diluted. You're gonna burn out because the amount of work and energy and time that you put into all of those 10 products, it's not going to work. It's just going to wear you out. So I really like what you said about, having that clarity of who you want to serve, the solution that you have for your customer, and then just focus on one thing, and then focus and focus and just focus. We cannot stress anymore how much focus we want you to do, but that is the key, right, Susan? If you really want to scale, you have to know your avatar, get the right message, and focus on one thing. It's like my daily thing, my daily life is to look at the landing page of the client and see, all right, you've got 5 different call to action button here. No. And I like what you have on your website. I mean, the header there is just work with me. That's it. Podcast, if you want to take a look. The rest of whatever you have, what services you offer, that should be at the bottom in the footer. So that one call to action button is your main focus on your site. Same thing with what you sell. But by saying all these things, you dropped so many bombs here, Susan. And we are really happy that you are here on our show to share this knowledge and expertise to our listeners. But how important it is for a solopreneur or for someone who is already growing but stuck there. You can't scale anymore. You can't break that glass ceiling. How important it is to have a team behind to help you scale.
Yeah, so what's that saying, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I very much believe that. Now, I had a team member right from the very beginning, even before I had my very first paying client online. And I know that there's a lot of people who keep saying, I'll hire somebody when, right? I'll hire someone when I do this. I'll hire somebody when I do that. And I see my friends and my colleagues, even still now, and it makes me shake my head because they are higher level entrepreneurs. They have made 6-figure plus, right? And some even 7-figure, and they're still don't have the trust and the faith. And sometimes it's just having the systems and the processes. And we were geeking out before we started to hit the record button on how much we had in common around, systems and operations and processes and procedures. Even if you are the most creative type of person, so I tend to attract and work with a lot of multi-passionates, a lot of creatives, a lot of Myers-Briggs ENFP or Enneagram 7s. And I think that if you are trying to be as spontaneous as possible, having a team, having structure, if anything, I firmly believe it gives you more freedom. It gives you more ability to do more of what you love because you aren't constrained by the things that bring you down, that bog you down, that take forever, that just get you out of flow. And for me, the very first thing that I like to have my clients do is to create as much income leverage as possible, because that gives them the ability to start investing that money into the things that are taking up their time. And so we flip the funnel. And so that's why for me, the biggest thing, the biggest transformation that you provide to people is the area that we focus on first. They tend to be higher ticket or higher end programs and services that I encourage my clients to sell, because as an expert, there's a depth of knowledge that we have that somebody is willing to pay a lot of money for, and it can serve them in such a higher capacity. And when you have that, you can make multiple 5-figure months quite easily just by having a handful of clients, getting them through the door, being able to perfect your process, and then being able to look at, where do I need some help? How can I delegate and get rid of some of the things that I am not the expert in, and to create that space as much as possible so that, again, everything has a positive ROI and that you're able to remove the stress and remove the hassle of doing things that you don't enjoy. I mean, I had a client who was also a sales background, and she was also creative, and she loved tinkering with Canva images in particular. And I remember very distinctly because she had a VA, and I said to her, "Why are you doing this?" She said, "Oh, but I love it." And I said, "Okay, I get that, but is your love for this preventing you from actually helping the client who's waiting for your unique gift?"
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And she looked at me and she went, "Oh, well, when you put it that way," but she really was adamant. "No, but I sit there and I do this while I'm on the couch watching TV." And I said, "But what if you could just sit there and watch TV with your spouse and not have to do this?"
Right.
Right? And I get that you enjoy it, but maybe you're using that as an excuse for not getting the clients, or for not having to put out the actual content that's going to invite people to work with you, or not making those invitations to create connections to get people to work with you, or even to learn more about you. So is it really, or is it more of an excuse? And more often than not, when I dig into it with my clients that need to outsource and delegate those specific tasks and roles, it's because they're hiding and because they're scared.
Scared to grow fast.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fall into that trap sometimes because, and David, like the other day, he's like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "I enjoy it." And then I would catch myself and realize that, wait a minute, we've got a team to work on this. And I'm like, for me, I can, give you tons of reasons why I do it. And most probably that your client was something like that as well. It's kind of like recharging. But you're right. Your gift is to be in front of your client, give them ideas on how you can help the client be successful and get that ROI that they need. And the repetitive task, that is something that you need to let go. And most importantly, before you can let go as well, is that you need to have that standard operating procedure. That is your Bible, so that in your business, so that you can eventually pass all the clients that you don't want to do, and you can focus on the thing that you love to do. And that is your unique gift. That is your face time with your client. I love it. I love it. Babe, you're going to say something.
Well, just along that whole vein, and just to kind of wrap things up, my new favorite quote, I'm actually going to print it out today and paste it up on the wall right just above my monitor so I see it all the time, is don't do something once that you can't do 1,000 times. And I've been racking my brain. I've read it somewhere and I can't think of who it is. And I'm going to spend some time tonight digging through the last couple of weeks of my life to figure out who said that, because I want to reach out to them and tell them how impactful that was to me. But we suffer with it with our clients, and we can focus on it. We see our clients doing that, and I'm like, "Why are you doing that, Pam?" Or even with them, "Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that?" That's not sustainable. We can't scale that, and it's easier to call out her than it is to call myself out, because I suffer from the same thing. I love my CRM. I could spend like 8 hours a day just working within my CRM and actually not doing anything. So it's something that I need to learn how to scale personally, because I can do it once, but I don't have time to do what I'm doing 1,000 times. So that's going to be my new thing.
Yeah, I remember when we started, we were doing everything on our own. And you mentioned about outsourcing, and it's our experience, it's our skills to outsource and know how to document everything and project manage and help the client and all of that. But when we started looking at outsourcing in a different view, instead of an expense because you're going to hire somebody, when you look at it as an investment for your business, you're going to start hiring people and just let go. It's hard, it's difficult, especially if you are running a business in a shoestring budget. You're starting out, but take it as an investment, because when we hired our first project manager, we how many clients did we have back then? Just two.
2 or 3. We were right on the cusp of our third one when we hired him. Yeah.
We had 2 clients back then when we hired our first project manager. But our thinking was, if we really want to scale, then I need to get out of that area of the business wherein I am doing the project management. I still do, but I oversee the project manager's projects. Yeah. So I can have that time with the client. I can meet with the client, brainstorm with the client, do my studying about what's in the market. Most of our clients are into giving us the responsibility of taking care of their social media, their email marketing. So I need to have that time to study and work on it so that I can get back to my client and say, hey, this is what we're going to do, and not tinker into doing Canva stuff. Right?
Yeah, which can be fun, but is not productive.
It's not for you. If you want to grow your business, it's not for you to do.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Susan, for all of this. You've given us some great information, and hopefully our listeners and our viewers as well. Before we wrap up here, how do people get a hold of you? Where do we find you if we've been inspired and want to know more?
Yeah, sure. So I'm across all social media channels at Susan Mcvea. My last name is a little tricky, so I'll spell it out, Mcvea. I'd love for you to check out my podcast, Master the Sales Game, and I share every single week tips and strategies, some stories in there as well to help you put some actionable items into your sales focus, things that actually will move the needle forward. And I'd love for you to grab my free gift to you, because I know that the number one thing that tends to get in the way for ourselves as experts when we have to sell ourselves, because that tends to be the last thing that you're going to outsource, is your sales, right?
Yes.
Is I can't afford it. That's usually the number one objection that we hear on sales conversations or as we're having these connections with individuals. And so I'd love to give you my exact 3 strategies to help you to overcome that. And you can grab that at susanmcvea.com /team.
Awesome.
Cool. And we'll put all that information in the show notes. So if anybody listening, don't have to be rewinding and scribbling all this down. It's all in the show notes to get a hold of Susan. Thank you again, Susan. This has been great. And I definitely see part 2 at some point in the future to carry on this conversation. But thank you so much.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. And until next time, thank you to our listeners. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.